The following program is brought to you by PodcastOne Sportsnet.
This episode of Steve Austin Show is sponsored in part by DDP Yoga. Working hundreds, if not thousands, of matches over the years, it ain't no surprise my body's taking a share of bumps and bruises. My buddy Diamond Dallas Page knows all about the wear and tear the ring takes on your body, and his DDP Yoga fitness system was specifically designed to burn fat, reduce pain, and heal from injuries. Dallas is so positive that you'll absolutely love the DDPY program and using the DDPY app that he's doing something he ain't never done before. He's going to give you 7 days free to try it out. That's a week to try the program, explore the app, and own your life, and it's completely free. DDP Yoga can work for all ages, weights, and fitness levels. It's a kick-ass cardio workout that will dramatically increase your flexibility and strengthen your core like never before, all with minimal joint impact. Just for listeners of the Steve Austin Show, you can save 20% off an annual membership for the DDP Yoga Now app off any DVD pack. Just go to ddpyoga.com/Austin to get started. If you want to experience the power of DDP Yoga in person, check out one of the upcoming DDPY Inspiration Meets Perspiration workshops. Dallas will be in Niagara Falls on Saturday, May 12th at the Optimist Club of Niagara Falls from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Be sure to attend these incredible 3-hour workshops where you'll get to meet DDP, get a kick-ass workout, and hear DDP's secrets to staying motivated. Get your workshop tickets at ddpyogaworkshops.com.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Now, here's Steve Austin.
All right, everybody, welcome to Steve Austin Show. I am coming to you from the Broken Skull Ranch 2.0 out here in Nevada. Holy smokes, man, you talk about a pretty day. It is an absolute beautiful day out here today. We've been out here in Nevada for about a week, and when we first got here, it was kind of chilly. I was a little bit surprised. I'd been looking forward to some warm weather. I'd been looking on the app on my phone that says it was going to be warm weather. We showed up, it's 35-40 degrees. I'm thinking, what in the hell is going on with the weather here, man? Well, finally it came around. It is 75 degrees, and it's sunny as hell, and I'm in like a kid in a candy store. I told you guys on my last podcast, hell, I was going to come out here, I was going to ride my Kawasaki mules, my Brute Force 750 four-wheeler, and my Kawasaki KLX dirt bike. I got a new spring put on the rear suspension of that so I could haul my big ass up and down these damn motocross tracks around here. And, God dang it, I loaded up my four-wheeler yesterday, loaded up my wife, Kristen, put the dogs in the back seat, and we headed over to my brother-in-law Mitch's place, and he loaded up his four-wheeler, and we hauled ass. Went about 20 miles down the road, pulled over some public land, unloaded our buggies, and, man, I tell you what, me and Mitch put 50 hard-ass miles on those four-wheelers. And I tell you what, man, because I don't know the land out here, because he's the guide, he knows the state like the back of his hand, and he'd been coming to this particular area for about 30 years. Man, it was rocky stuff. It was smooth, lots of great inclines, some technical riding, obviously some descents, and, man, there was just some flat-out haul-ass stuff, as well as some mud and some snow that we had to navigate around. I put that damn Brute Force 750 through the ringer. You talk about a badass machine. Dude, that thing is awesome. And when we took off, we left the pickup trucks. I had on my motocross gloves. I was just wearing a pair of shorts. I thought we were just going to kind of lollygag around a little bit and just kind of ride easy and do some sightseeing. So I was thinking, man, I don't want to wear my helmet. I'm just going to wear my baseball hat. So I decided to just wear my baseball hat and wear my sunglasses because we weren't going to be riding very fast. Well, one thing led to another, and we were riding our asses off. And because, he was leading the tour, I was behind him. So depending on what we were going through, whether it was rocks, dirt, or whatever, I knew I should have worn my helmet. I will the next time I ride. And I knew I should have worn my goggles. And I will the next time I ride. We drove 50 miles, hauling ass, up and down some of the greatest, most beautiful country I've ever seen. That was the best singular four-wheeler ride I've ever had, because I'm used to riding around in the flat stuff that I had down there in South Texas, which I love. But, man, this was an exciting ride. I ate so much dirt. I could feel my damn eyes just like basically were packed with mud. And I didn't have any Visine, didn't have any technology or water available to just wash my eyes out. Man, we rode the shit out of those four-wheelers, loaded them back up, went back to Mitch's house. We were going to go eat Mexican food and get a margarita after that. My wife says, Steve, you going to take a shower? I said, no, I'm good. She said, go look at yourself in the mirror. Boy, I went and looked at myself in the mirror, and I was sunburnt. I was muddy. I looked like I'd been rolling around in a goddamn pig pen. So I jumped in the shower and cleaned up. And then while I was in the shower, I actually opened my eyes and rinsed my goddamn eyes out with the shower stream because that's how much mud and shit I had packed in my goddamn red-ass eyes. I was screaming for some Visine. And when I got home, I damn near put about a bottle of Visine in each eye. That's how red my damn eyes were. But, man, you talk about having a blast. Son of a gun. Hey, man, say the plug, real deal. Love the Brute Force 750. Love it. That's some twin 750 twin cylinder, tons of torque, just tons of throttle whenever you grab it, and that thing just handles like a damn charm. It is an absolute beast of a machine, and I'm fixing to load up my dirt bike. As soon as I finish this podcast, I'm heading out to the BLM. I got that thing all tuned up, the local motorcycle shop here in town. I got a new battery put in it, beefed up the suspension in the rear end so it doesn't sag so much with my heavy ass on there. And, man, I am enjoying having all these different places to ride. And day after that, I'm going to pack up my mule, and I'm going to load up Cali and Moolah, and I'm going to take an extra gas tank, and I'm going to put about 100 miles on that damn buggy exploring this certain area that I ride out here. So it's been phenomenal. Anyway, I don't want to sit here and flap my gums and bore you with all my riding details, but man, I told you guys I was going to do that, and I was able to get a lot of it accomplished, and I'm fixing to go ride my damn bike as soon as I finish this podcast. But in the meantime, I did have some work to do, and I called up on old Court Bauer from Major League Wrestling, his new promotion, which is what we're going to talk about for the first half of the podcast. Some of the booking that he's doing, some of the talent that's working with him, how they're going about their approach to, their presentation of their product here in the landscape of pro wrestling. We won't say sports entertainment. We're going to call it pro wrestling. I think that's what Court would call it as well. Yeah, you want to be entertaining while you're out there wrestling, but it's pro wrestling. So talking to Court Bauer about that, we'll talk a little bit about the Andre the Giant documentary, Bruno Sammartino, the passing of one of the greatest legends in the history of the business, a super huge draw. I guess he was a world champion for 7 or 8 years running. And it'd be an interesting story because, I know Bruno wasn't a big fan of Stone Cold Steve Austin when I first came out, but we got a chance to shake hands before, obviously passed away. This was probably 5 years ago. And, I think he was on the same page with me. But, man, what a true legend in the history of the sport, a guy who truly drew huge money, very charismatic, working class, blue collar. People just love the guy. Sold out Madison Square Garden, I don't know how many times. But anyway, here's a podcast about pro wrestling, Andre the Giant documentary, Bruno Sammartino, closing thoughts on him, and just bullshit in general. Anyway, before my conversation with Court Bauer about the business of pro wrestling, how about I save you hundreds of dollars on your car insurance with Geico? Go to geico.com, and in 15 minutes, you could be saving 15% or more on car insurance. That's right. Save hundreds of dollars on car insurance at geico.com. Extra money in your pocket? It may just be the most rewarding thing you do today.
Good news. For the first time ever, the Adam Carolla Show is in virtual reality. Live Saturday, April 21st. Just a one-time $4.99 subscription, and you can see it on your phone or your computer in virtual 360 reality. You don't need glasses, only a web-enabled device. Experience a live show from the comfort of your own internet. It's not going to air as a regular show, so you can only see it in person Saturday, April 21st, or buy the VR download and watch on your favorite device. Get it at PodcastOne.com/CorollaVR. PodcastOne.com/CorollaVR.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
All right, got all the technology issues solved. Yes, once again, Steve Austin here on the Steve Austin Show. I have Court Bauer from MLW, Major League Wrestling, headaches, hassles, and horse manure. This is my family-friendly show. Jiminy H. Christ, Court, it's good to see you. How are you?
Hey, it's good to be on with you, man. How you doing?
Man, I'm trying to settle down. I'm out here in Nevada. I did Broken Skull Ranch 2.0, trying to get all my vehicles registered in Nevada. It was a bunch of hoops that I had to jump through, a bunch of discombobulation, a bunch of visits to the California DMV, to the Nevada DMV, back to the California DMV, then back to the Nevada DMV. And so now I'm finally done. All my shit, at least my Nevada stuff, has license plates that say Nevada on them. I'm legal here in the state of Nevada. I got proof of insurance in every vehicle. Dude, I like to drive my stuff, and they kind of just collect dust in my barn. I'll never get rid of that stuff, but you know, that's my wife. If my wife didn't keep up with the paperwork, I think I'd sell everything and own one single vehicle and be done with it, because it ain't my cup of tea. But I didn't call you to tell you about my MV problems. Let's talk a little bit about pro wrestling, dude. How's your promotion doing? Congratulations.
Yeah, we're really excited. We had our first TV show on Friday night on beIN Sports, coast to coast, and in Canada as well as Puerto Rico and soon other places. And it was cool. It was one of those things where you're just promoting, and about 7:59 p.m. right before the show came out, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, you're like, wow. Hopefully this is a good show, and all of a sudden all the anxiety kicks in, and then I fired up Twitter to see what the feedback was, and I was really happy to see that people enjoyed it. It was the return of Tony Schiavone to the broadcast booth, and we had a hell of a night of wrestling. We had Pentagon versus Ray Phoenix. I know you're trying to keep Pentagon in shape, keeping him honest, keep him on a diet, and I'll always remind him of that. And we also had Austin Aries versus ACH, and then a 469-pounder Barrington Hughes debut for us. So it was an action-packed night, but it's funny I'm used to writing 2-hour shows, 3-hour shows back in the day for WWE. 60 minutes goes by real fast, and to try to get everyone in a 60-minute show, which is really closer to 48 minutes, it's not easy.
So, I mean, is there any chance of going to an extra hour, or are you just going to stick with the hour?
No, I like an hour. I like having that problem because everyone doesn't get overexposed, and you can kind of have you got to find the rhythm. It's a different rhythm, but it's a lot of fun because everything's fresh. You don't have to worry about guys being on every week. If you want to choose who to be on every week, you can, but you don't need it. And that's what's nice about it. And what's really cool is our partners, beIN Sports, has been so supportive. They worked with us on doing a bunch of commercials. We have Filthy Tom talking about anger management issues in the human resources department at the network in one commercial. You have one where Low Key takes a bat to someone or a chair to someone in the Master Control. You have Colonel Parker harassing people on elevators. It's a fun thing. And beIN, they had our talent on all week long on all their shows. So when you have a partner like that, it makes your chances for success better, and that's been great for us. I mean, I would say their enthusiasm kind of reminds me of like Spike for UFC back in 2005, because they pushed the hell out of the UFC in 05, 06, and they were all in on it. And beIN is all in with us, and we never expected, after just doing 5 relatively smaller shows in Orlando, to have a national TV deal. And here we are, and that's where we find ourselves. So now we're, kind of like the fastest growing promotion here, and we got to staff up and be ready, each week to put out a new TV show. So it's a lot of fun challenges, a lot of excitement. And I just got back from another trip. I did an overnighter down to Florida for some business, and it's go, go, go.
Hey man, what network is that? Is your show on?
beIN Sports, BEIN Sports. They do a lot of soccer, boxing, motocross sports.
But is that DirecTV or what is that?
Yep, it's on DirecTV. It's on Dish Network.
What number on DirecTV? Because that's what I got.
Let me find out right now. DirecTV. I'm going to type it up here on my computer. It says what channel is. It says 408 in English and 871 in Spanish. 620 in English and HD. So 620 would be DirecTV, and that's every Friday night. And we're on, Verizon, Fios, AT&T. We're on Sling for cord cutters. You can get it on Roku, on the Connect, beIN Connect. They have an OTT service. So there's a lot of ways to get it. Spectrum, if you have Spectrum, you get it. If you go to MLW.com/Fusion, you'll find out all the places where the show airs. But that's the name of the show, Major League Wrestling Fusion, because the show has a lot of different wrestling styles. We have the Lucha Libre, we have hardcore brawling, we have technical wrestling, we have guys from MMA. Filthy Tom Lawler's still in the UFC. He's been there for 10 years, yet he also wrestles for us. So we have a lot of crossover and some real variety when it comes to our roster.
So tell me about what you're trying to think there with all the diverse styles of wrestling. Can they all exist under one roof?
Yeah, well, styles make fights. Some you want to avoid, some you want to see how it works out, and some you'll be pleasantly surprised by. Guys like Pentagon can wrestle anyone. He's really good. He could wrestle someone from Japan, Japanese style, strong style. He could go hardcore. I mean, he's a real versatile guy. Some luchadors couldn't do that. He's one of those guys that can. He lays the stuff in. He's a real dynamic wrestler. Guys like ACH are also good. They can do Japanese-style high-flying, lucha and stuff. So, some of these guys are pretty competent when it comes to this.
I got a chance to meet Pentagon and Phoenix in my room during WrestleCon a few weeks ago, and obviously I guess he'd heard I was a big fan, and they came up. We were shooting the breeze for a little bit. Super nice guy. I think he's going to be on a podcast. I think he's coming to town in Los Angeles, I think on the 4th of next month, so I think I'm going to get a chance to see him. But dude, what just seems like a really good guy. He seems straight up and down to earth, and I know, like when I was talking to him, he can't use the Pentagon Junior gimmick. So what's he using as he works for you?
Well, we worked out a deal with AAA and Lucha Underground, and we have the blessing to use Pentagon Junior. So we do use it. We have the likeness, and it's been great to work with Dorian Roldan and his team behind AAA to make that happen. And because that's where I think he's known because of Lucha Underground. I mean, he has the Penta L0M name. To me, Pentagon Junior, it's easier to market. It's already established. Strategically, it works. I went with Ray Phoenix because I like a wrestler having two names. I'm the opposite of Vince, who likes to downsize it and keep it just to one name, just Cesaro. So for me, I liked Ray Phoenix. So I kind of blended both. I could do whatever I wanted, so I'll stick with Ray Phoenix on that one. And they're both phenomenal. Pentagon Jr. is going to be wrestling for us next week at our next TV tapings in Orlando, May 3rd, and he'll be challenging for the world title against our new champion, Shane Strickland, who beat Matt Riddle in the finals, and that was a hell of a match. We have over 23,000 views on the beIN YouTube page for the match, and it just went up recently, so I was really impressed to see it get that many views, and it's a 25-minute match. Tony Schiavone does a hell of a call with Rich Bucchini, formerly Rich Brennan. So, they wrestled that match. They worked that match like a big money fight, and that's what I love to see is young guys being able to know how to kick it into high gear. And the art of working a big money fight is so different than just working a main event or a big match. There's a tone to it, a tempo. It's a real art.
Dude, how have y'all's crowds been just as responses, buying in, responding accordingly, just as far as trying to get some heat or just establishing a relationship with the fans? I know you've been down there, you've been doing your shows, but now all of a sudden you got the TV deal. How's it working right now with the cameras rolling? Anything
it's
changed?
Great. I think we really see a surge of interest, and so the crowds are bigger naturally when you have TV. People want to be on TV, but you feel more important because you're on TV, and it's easier to fall into the product and see these guys understand what they're fighting for and stuff. And we've tried to up our production. We have these big video walls, so in between matches, just for the house, we'll do character development. We'll update people on maybe we did an angle in the ring. We'll give them a little follow-up afterwards about 2 matches later, those kind of things. But the crowd's been great. We have that classic old-school crowd in that we have one, but sometimes even 2 grandmas ringside. We have Grandma Anita, and we have another grandma that show up. But we have a very young crowd. We do our shows at a nightclub, so it has a unique atmosphere to it. Right after our show, the ring gets dropped. They take it out, and it's a nightclub. Within 25 minutes, it flips over that quickly.
And so your show is now airing once a week?
Yep. We air on Friday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And then we have replays most weeks, but some weeks not. Depends. See, we're part of a Friday Night Fury block. So MLW is at 8 o'clock. 9 o'clock, they have MMA. 10 o'clock, they have Roy Jones Jr. boxing. So if he's doing live fights, sometimes the replay gets pushed back, or if they go long, we just don't get a replay. Depends.
Dude, how far out in advance are you doing television tapings?
3 to 4 weeks, depending. We have a real quick turnaround if we need it. I'd like probably one day to do maybe kind of like what Raw used to do in the 90s, where they'd maybe do 1 week live, then 1 week taped. That's something down the road I'd love to see, because you save money, yet you have the spontaneity, but you don't get too far down the road because it's creative algebra to try to book that far in advance. Guys get injured, guys have issues, and they can't make it, and then all of a sudden your plans are all screwed up. One thing that we did is we did sign our wrestlers to contracts. They're allowed to wrestle elsewhere, but their commitment is a priority to us, and vice versa. We want to invest in them, so we have to, we want to match that obligation of investing in them, and they invest in us. If we put them on TV, we want them to make us a priority, and so it's been really exciting. We've virtually have signed everyone that we've wanted to sign. It's a really exciting time.
Dude, we used to go down there when I was at WCW. We'd roll down there in Orlando, and myself and William Regal, Steve Regal, whatever you want to call him, we'd stay out in Kissimmee, we'd stay in Orlando. But there was this bar we used to go to in Kissimmee called Rover's Return Pub, and Jesus Christ, man, we would go out there, throw darts, drink Guinness, draft beer, and just get trashed damn near every single night. But going back to the television taping part of it, they were filming so far in advance. I mean, and this was back in, 93, 94, give or take. I mean, whether it was Dusty or I think maybe even Flair had to book, but I mean, they're working a little bit, but booking. And dude, it was just, it was a real cluster, because there were so many guys, and then they're still doing enhancement matches. Hell, I think I did a job for Savage, about a 4-minute job. And, but it was so much. I didn't feel like there was really any continuity or any great storytelling. So hopefully you guys, like you said, you're booking, a shorter window.
Yes.
They were looking big picture, a lot of talent, and really just as far as the powers that be. And sometimes, when you get guys still in the ring that are booking, it's not the greatest scenario in the world. But WCW, just as far as my memories of going back to that, was just an entire cluster.
Yeah, and for us, it's you don't want to do too much TV because it can be hard to navigate where you're going to be in 6 to 8 weeks, like the old WCW Worldwide tapings were. I used to love how you guys had that rotating ring where it almost do like a 360 in between the action. I don't know how it was to work in that ring, because on top of that, you had a platform to make it move, and then you would have the ringside area. So bumping out of the ring wasn't typically like bumping out of the ring. There was the shit going on around the ring. How was that for you?
Dude, I barely remember that, but I do remember it vaguely. It wasn't really a big issue. And man, like I was never a hard camera guy. In my entire career, I've never looked for any cameras. And all of a sudden, if the ring's just going, at slow pace, didn't really think anything of it. But it was a little funky because, you're rotating. But I just put it out of my head and just was worried about the match, and then worried about the hangover that I had going into the match. When you're talking about you guys have been able to, through your relationship with AAA, Pentagon's able to use his name, and more of that's happening. Man, dude, that's a pretty fortunate thing, because I always like to see all the guys and gals make as much money as possible, be able to work wherever they want. And now, I mean, if you're not locked up by WWE, and I think even they have a relationship with a lot of their guys where they can still go do other shots. But dude, it's kind of a change in the guard a little bit, because normally people get locked up, and that is, that's all you've got is that one place. So I really dig what y'all are doing, and I'm sure that the talent does as well. And your relationship with AAA to be able to give each other some television time, and it works for all the talent, and obviously you as a promoter now.
Yeah, and for our contracts too, we want them to work. Go work Impact. Go work every company. Get that repetition. Get that exposure. Work local indie. Go out to LA. Go out to Seattle. Go out to Texas. Wrestle everywhere. Get as much. Go to Japan. Hey, maybe there's an opportunity for us to air your match from Japan. It makes you look like a bigger deal here in the States. The Japanese company may love it because then their product is on air in the U.S. It's a different world, because I think for so long the mentality for promoters was they pee in a circle and said, that's my line. Don't cross it. If that's mine. And it was very predatorial. Whereas now it's almost like this a new wave territory system of sorts where, come and go. Let's all have this big open playground for you to all just do your thing on, and whenever you're available, come in and stuff. No one's bearing anyone. There's no one going cutting a promo on another company and being provocative. It's straight up just let's everyone make money. The promoter's making money, the talent making money in wrestling as much as they can, instead of being locked in to a contract where you can't do anything. Like, the only reason why we have contracts is to make sure our guys are committed for that one day, and we always have them locked in for that. That's the only purpose for us, and for continuity's sake. So if someone does try to poach talent, we're protected. But we want our talent. We tell them, you don't have to clear dates with us. Go and wrestle around the world. Tell us how it goes. Good luck. Don't get hurt. That's it.
Hey, man, as someone who used to write for WWE back in the day, how long did you spend with the company?
2.5 years.
Okay, and then going back to your days with the Samoan SWAT team, you won Book of the Year back in the day. That's an inside joke between you and me, but you do still have the plaque.
You have a few plaques, too, I've seen in your house.
Yeah. No, but knowing that you're such a fan of wrestling and a student of the game, had a relationship with the one and only Gary Hart, a super smart guy that we both got a lot of respect for. So, like with the different styles that you just talked about, lucha, your high flyers, your mat wrestlers, your UFC guys or MMA guys, when you decide when you put this TV deal together, like, what was your thought of, hey, am I trying to compete with Impact? Am I trying to compete with WWE? Or am I trying to be what Mid-South once was? What was your vision about what you're putting on screen right now?
Well, you can't out WWE at what they do. Their product is spectacular. It is huge. It's larger than life. Everything they do is amazing. And all these different companies where you look at Lucha Underground and it feels like you're falling into an epic saga and a comic book. The aesthetic, the visual representation is so different than anything out there. It's very distinct. For us, we wanted it to be sports centered, and just through the prism of even how how Tony and Rich call the action feels like a sport. We want just a certain way to kind of ground the company, so everything you do is based on it being a sport. You've defined what it is. Now you go out there and make it work within the context of that you've created in this land. So for our brawlers, having the opportunity to wrestle maybe a powerhouse like Brian Cage, like we just announced Joey Janela, who's an outrageous wild card of a wrestler, versus Brian Cage. It's an interesting dynamic, power versus brawling. It's kind of like a throwback to the old UFC without trying to shoehorn MMA, but the concept back in the 90s was style versus style, what can happen. But we like to say, okay, you can do that, but you can also blend styles. Like our world champion, I would say he's more of a hybrid wrestler. He can fly, he can brawl, he can mat wrestle, he can do it all. Some of our guys have more of an emphasis on brawling. Some of them have a little bit more on the MMA end. It all depends. So that kind of is how we distinguish ourselves, and also just we have a bit of undercurrent of hip hop to what we do. Wale has been a big supporter of us, and of course we did Wale Mania every year with him, and he does the actual open for our show every week. So I want to say, without being too braggadocious, I think we have probably the best song right now in wrestling for our opening TV theme. So we're really lucky to have him do that.
Who is your world champion? Who are the world tag team champions? And do you have a women's division?
We do have a women's division. Santana Garrett's a part of it. Chelsea Green, formerly of Impact, is in it. Our tag team titles will be decided very soon. We also will have a middleweight title coming into the picture this summer. We'll have more details on that. And then our world champion is Shane Strickland, who defeated Matt Riddle. That match is available for free over at beIN's YouTube page. It's got over 22,000 views, which I think is a pretty cool thing. I know there's a lot of matches that do a lot more, but this has only been out for like 48 hours, so I'm pretty excited about that. And Shane Strickland's a great wrestler, served in the military, and uses some of these military combatives in his wrestling, kind of like Barry Windham. But he's not as tall, but he has like that elusiveness, very quick and nimble on his feet, a real dynamic wrestler. And for us, I mean, we couldn't be luckier to have a world champion like Shane Strickland. Represents us does a lot of media. Last week alone, going into our premiere, he was in studio at beIN. He was doing ESPN radio. He was doing phoners. He was doing interviews, and we had him doing a lot of media last week, and he was game for it. And he says all the right things. He represents the company the right way. It's like he's been in the WWE for 15 years. I mean, that's how polished he is. It's very rare. That was one of the first things that impressed me beyond his in-ring game was just how polished he was at doing media. It came naturally to him.
So when you decided, this is going to be your guy, I go back to the days where a lot of times, promoters would either, like Vern Gagne, the belt would be on Vern Gagne or Zabisco, who was married into the Gagne family because, you want to be able to depend on people. So are you able to depend on Shane?
Absolutely. And he's never let me down. I knew Shane was my guy.
But did that come into play when you started thinking about that? Because there's some real fruit.
Oh yeah. There's definitely a criteria, and you want to see if guys continue to live up to your expectations. And that Shane, I had earmarked him early on before our first show. It's like if we, depending on how things go, even if it's just a one-off, this is a guy I would like to invest in. And then as the company, we definitely saw opportunity to keep giving him the ball, and he would run with it. We've had guys space out. Oh, I double booked myself. Oh, dude, that's not a good look. We've had, things come up. We had a guy who said, hey, you can book me, but it's $X if I win and $Y if I lose. I said, thanks, but no thanks. I've never heard of that. We ain't going to start with that. So you get some interesting stuff as you go through it. Some guys are just they don't know any better. They're young, they're super talented, but they still don't have a sense for the business, or they've just been given bad advice. That's one of the weird things, because there's so much great wrestling out there. A lot of companies doing the right things, but there's also everywhere you go, you're going to get different advice. And even that happens inside the WWE where if you're a guy coming up and everyone starts to give you advice, you have to kind of filter the good advice from the bad advice, but really the advice that really will work for you and where you're going with your career. And you have to be very selective with that. Some guys try to implement all of it, and it's a cluster. It does not work well when you try to take everyone's advice and incorporate it into your match. So we have a really good crew that helps kind of our agents. We have a really good team, myself included, where we work with them to make sure they're going in the direction where we want them, both mechanically in the ring, in terms of performance, in terms of their promos, their presentation. We have Bruce Pritchard, who's a senior producer for us, Brother Love, formerly of WWE, the right-hand man of Vince.
So when you say senior producer, what's he doing with you guys?
He does pre-tapes. He works with a lot of talent. We'll do pre-tapes on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and he'll produce a good chunk of them. And then he's also an agent. So he's working with some of the young guys and trying to help them kind of decode what they do and how to get the most out of them.
So you flying Pritchard down there to Florida when you guys do this?
Yeah, Pritchard's
Oh, dude, that's awesome. I didn't know he was back in the wrestling game. I know he's got a very successful podcast, and now they're on the WWE Network, but I didn't know that he was down there working for you. That guy's phenomenal.
He is. He's been a great get for us. We have him, and we also have Alex Greenfield, he works as a producer doing pre-tapes. He worked at WWE as a part of the creative team. Robert Karpelis, Sean O'Hare, who worked for Fox, worked for Amazon and a lot of different companies, also helping to produce. On the TV side too, we have Nelson Swegler, who was, before there was a Kevin Dunn, there was a Nelson Swegler. Late 70s to the mid 90s, he was the head of TV operations for WWE. And worked with Kevin's dad and groomed Kevin, and Kevin ultimately took over for him when he left. And then Nelson worked. I met him doing UFC Fight Pass, and so he's involved on the TV ops side. We also have the former head of ECW's TV production, Charlie Berzis. So we have really good, experienced guys behind the scenes, and then it's really, we don't have a creative team or anything like that. I'm the booker, along with my assistant, who's his name is MSL. And so the two of us kind of work in tandem, kind of like how Gary taught me. He used to work under Bill Watts in Florida and kind of got, an understanding as an assistant booker to Bill being the booker. And then he, of course, went on to World Class to book. He booked in the Carolinas and Georgia, et cetera, et cetera. So I've tried both the creative team process when I was at WWE, and I still believe it's the best process when you have a booker and a very clear linear path to where you want to go with the game plan.
Hey, man, what are you guys doing with respect to your promos? If you have Pritchard down there kind of helping produce those, and you as well, like kind of what's your guideline, what's your parameter on that? Because you and me spend a lot of time on the phone, booking the territory, talking wrestling,
Right.
What's going on in today's landscape. So there, for MLW, how are you guys going about that?
Well, I try to give them kind of an idea for where I want to go with the promo. Hey, we're trying to get this across. I'd like you to try it this way. What do you think? And sometimes we'll try it. Sometimes it's kind of a feeling out process until you say, okay, that feels good. Let's try it that way. Some guys, they just say, hey, coach, tell me what to do. And you try to give that to them, but you also want to give them the latitude to try and get outside of their comfort zone and do something different. There's a lot of great young talent out there that you want to give them a little bit of a runway to experiment, but you also kind of have to sometimes rein it in because they do crazy stuff because they just don't know any better. They're like puppy dogs. But Bruce has been great. He's been really helpful for a lot of our young talent. In particular, I'll give him the talent that I think needs maybe they could really enjoy his perspective, given he's been in the business for 40 plus years. So guys like Maxwell Jacob Friedman, who's a great young talent, 21, a classic heel, really good wrestler, knows how to get heat, which is very hard these days. Most guys go in there for the pop. He wants to get the heat, and he's very good at it. But Bruce has been phenomenal working with him along with Robert. And so, we try to spread out our team to work with different guys. And kind of build a rapport. I know, like when you were doing the Stone Cold persona, there were certain people that you looked to get some feedback from, like Blackjack Lanza, etc. So I think it's helpful to have some sort of trust with the talent and someone from the office.
But man, Bruce Pritchard helped me out tremendously because the thing I liked about Bruce was, his attitude. Hey man, what about this? Or I was thinking. Or what about
Yes.
this? And the thing about Bruce, they're from Houston, Texas. Of course, Dr. Tom Pritchard, his brother, my former travel partner in USWA days, and we were riding down the road, and hell, I got a big chunk of my psychology and awareness of what goes on in a squared circle from Dr. Tom. And then I'll never forget, we were riding down the road one day, and we were talking about WWF, and Tom says, "What do you think about that Brother Love guy?" I didn't know they were brothers. Turns out I was a fan. And so anyway, I said, oh man, but this was at a point where they'd kind of watered him down a little bit. I said, man, I love that guy. I said, they kind of watered him down. He's kind of changed his gimmick a little bit, but he used to be great because I don't know what they were doing, but they were kind of jacking with Bruce's character towards the end of whatever happened. But anyway, Bruce was a big part of my Stone Cold days. I mean, Bruce was in there, Vince Russo was there, but I remember being backstage and just going over different ideas with him. And Bam, you've been there. A lot of times with us, I'd be driving monster trucks and stuff like that. But just as far as the character stuff, Bruce was very instrumental in doing a lot of things with the Stone Cold character. So I give him a lot of credit for a lot of things. So a good guy to have on board there. But anyway, dude, I wanted to talk to you a little bit also about the Andre the Giant special, was just aired on HBO. Did you get a chance to see that?
I did. I actually just saw it the other day.
Well, let's take a pause for the calls. I'm coming right back with Court Bauer. We're going to talk about Andre the Giant, the documentary, the man, the myth, the legend, and some of the people who took part in the making of that, some of the interviews, and what's going on in the current landscape of WWE. Here are some useful car tips you might not be aware of. Putting your floor mat under your tires in the winter can help get your car out of the snow. Removing excess weight from your car will improve gas mileage. Keeping a Dixie cup of water in your car to put your cigarettes in is a better option than throwing them out the window. Are you ready for one more tip you might not know about? TrueCar also helps people get used cars. That's right. TrueCar ain't just for buying new cars. With their certified dealer network and nationwide inventory of nearly 1 million used cars, you'll enjoy real pricing on actual inventory and a simpler buying experience, whether you're buying new or used. And with TrueCar, users can see what others paid, so they know if they're getting a good deal before buying. They're also more likely to enjoy a faster buying experience by connecting with TrueCar certified dealers. When you're ready to buy a new or used car, check out TrueCar and enjoy a more confident car buying experience. Some features are not available in all states. Well, it's time for the NFL Draft again. If you're looking for expert breakdown of each team's needs, top draft picks, and insider information, we have a show here at PodcastOne Sports with Ross Tucker called Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Ross played in the NFL for 7 years and is currently a broadcaster and writer. It's a fantastic show. Ross has great insight and access, so download the Ross Tucker Football Podcast at PodcastOne and Apple Podcasts, and remember to rate and review. We always want to hear your feedback.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
All right, talking to Court Bauer from MLW. Court, did you get a chance to see the Andre the Giant special? What did you think?
I did. It was really cool. They had a historian, Pat LaPrade, and he did a great job of just giving little anecdotes, stuff I didn't know about Andre. I knew a lot about Andre, which says a lot about my spare time, but I knew a lot about Andre, but there was stuff still I did not know. And I thought we hear some of the people that were around him at his compound in North Carolina, you get a sense for a different side of Andre, which I thought was fascinating. The archival footage was great. Tim White, he's phenomenal. And you could see the footage where they showed Andre playing cards with Dusty Rhodes backstage and he gets hot.
Yeah.
Dude, that was great. I loved it. I really did. There's always going to be people say, well, there were certain things that maybe a bit were embellished, not knowing the finish of WrestleMania 3. Come on, man. We all knew the finish going into that one. But it was still, that's just kind of how it's going to be romanticized, which is okay. But he was seriously one of the most fascinating characters to ever be in the business. Did you ever get to be around Andre much?
Man, I remember it was probably – it had to have been 92 or 93. We're at a television taping in Center Stage. It's got to be around that time frame. And this was when Andre was on crutches. And I remember in the documentary they showed him on those crutches. He was on those things when he was walking across Center Stage. And there he was. And I was a WCW guy. I had just come from USWA. Before that, I was in Dallas. Andre had been all around the world for, at that point for probably 30 years. And he was on that downhill, descent that he was kind of going through physically. And man, I was a nobody, dude. I was Steve Austin, or I guess I was stunning Steve Austin because I was in WCW. But, compared to Andre, man, I was a J-Brone. But I knew that I had to introduce myself to Andre. He didn't know who the hell I was. But out of all the stories that I'd ever heard and all the matches that I'd seen of him and the legend of Andre, dude, that's one of those things where you just got to go shake his hand. Very intimidating guy. Especially because I was young in the business and this guy was such a legend, and obviously Andre the Giant. So, man, I walked up to him and I said, hey, Andre, I said, my name's Steve Austin. I said, I just wanted to shake your hand and say nice to meet you. So, dude, I introduced myself to him. I met the man in person, and that's all I got. But, dude, I just had to because I had to pay my respects because you call him the eighth wonder of the world, and people always talk about these bullshit Mount Rushmore things and stuff like that. But Andre, just like Vince said, Andre was an attraction. And, in his younger days, I mean, dude, he could do some scientific, a little bit of technical wrestling. He kind of slowed down, as he turned into, really the Giant after he went through all the name changes. And then Vince got a hold of him. And, dude, he did his basic formula. If he didn't like you, he was going to toss you around the ring, torture you. Like, I'd heard that he wasn't real fond of Jake the Snake Roberts, and they would be in a tag match. Rick Rude and Jake would be teaming up against Andre and somebody, or maybe it was a handicap match. And Andre would just stand on Jake's hair and just surfboard him and pull his arms back. Do stuff like that. But, and then, like Jake would just be looking at Rude, and Rude would be over laughing his ass off because he knew what the deal was, just wanting to tag out. But, dude, he was an attraction. It was interesting to hear Vince talk about, and that's why Vince has always been so smart. Like he knew it was an attraction. He wasn't, a guy that was going to work a different match, with another guy. He was going to work the Andre the Giant match. And so, man, he loaned him out to all the damn different promotions, kept everybody happy, and he kept Andre fresh. And, dude, that's, when you think about it, you had to protect Andre. And that was, you had to protect him. You did. But it was really interesting how he was basically always kept out of the world title picture.
Yeah, that's something that was interesting, too. He was part of the focus in WrestleMania 3 and then 4. But earlier on when he was able to do more that kept him away from the title. What's interesting too, with the recent passing of Bruno Sammartino, who was a huge folk hero here, at least in the Northeast, there was talk about, I guess, Bruno and Andre wanted to do a match, and Vince Sr. said no, never. They'll never get that match. Vince Sr. would give Bruno just about anything, the same for Andre, but that was one match he was not going to do. He did not want to put two of his top baby faces against each other, because what's the finish? That's what Vince Jr. would always say is, okay, that sounds great, but what's the finish? And we'd all sit there scratching our heads. Well, shit, just sounded good on paper. Boss, we figured you'd get that part of it.
Man, that's interesting that you say that, because, what do you do? And would it hurt either guy?
Yeah, it's a weird time too, because in the say the late 70s, when they did the Shea Stadium show or something like that, it certainly would have popped business, I think. But then you got to remember, back then in the territory days, they didn't do baby faces against each other because it didn't pop business. Very rarely. If you think about the old WWF versus NWA title matches, it was like Harley Race versus Bob Backlund. That was heel versus babyface. It wasn't, Dusty versus Backlund or something like that. It was Dusty as the NWA champion versus the WWF champion superstar Billy Graham, babyface heel. So there was a lot behind that. I mean, even I remember Gary Hart telling me, babyface matches sound good and they might draw, but when the bell rings, it doesn't get the reaction you think it will. And it's true. Most of those babyface matches, it's like crowds don't know what to do with it. Sometimes they'll turn on one guy, and it's not the guy by design you want them to turn on. It's Russian roulette. And for a promoter, that's dangerous when you have such immense attractions like Bruno and Andre, because you didn't want to beat Andre. And you know that Bruno didn't lose too often. But Bruno was down to do business, yet Vince Sr. still was not going to do that match, which that's one of those great dream matches, at least for us in the Northeast. I think that would have been pretty cool. Both way before my time, but Bruno's presence was felt for decades beyond his time in the ring, which speaks to his contributions in the ring, because he helped build the WWF and WWF.
Man, with the passing of Bruno Sammartino, all of a sudden I started getting some notifications on Twitter, and I think my wife said some famous wrestler just died. And I was like, Jesus Christ, another guy, OD'd or whatever. But it wasn't. It was Bruno. It was, what was about 80?
82.
82. Obviously lived a long life, and obviously was an absolute legend in the business of professional wrestling and a super draw. But, dude, he was a little before my time, and that was, everything was a lot more regional back then. So I didn't get a whole lot of Bruno, but I understand the legend that is Bruno Sammartino and the money that he drew. Did you ever get a chance to see any of his work, or have you checked it out on YouTube? You're a little bit younger than me. But how familiar are you with his work? Because, I mean, you're up there in that area. I know, I think, he's from Pittsburgh or wherever he's from. Yeah. But just, the Italians and everybody just absolutely love the guy. And I don't know how many times he sold at Madison Square Garden, but an absolute legend. But, I just didn't know a whole lot about his work.
And you got to remember when he was on top and in the Garden, too. Which was a monthly thing. This is the 60s, mid-60s into throughout the 70s. But really, for the early part of his run, the first third of it, you got to remember what the sports world was like here in New York. This was post-Mickey Mantle era Yankees, which no one talks about for a reason. The New York Mets, had some promise, but were still really in their infancy. The Jets had that Joe Namath run. But beyond that, there wasn't much going on in football. And the Knicks didn't heat up until the early 70s, really. So he really was the guy in this town who drew very well. And you look at how New York has always been such a melting pot, but especially then whenever, you had Arthur Avenue was super Italian, you had Little Italy, but everywhere, even in the suburbs, the tri-state area here in New York, there is such a huge Italian fan base. And this was also a time when, I know it sounds kind of crazy in 2018, but there was a lot of racism towards Italians. And it was very hard for Italians to move up that ladder, even in the 60s. I think every ethnic group faces something like that at a certain point in America. The Italians got it bad, today it's much different, but then even it was hard. So this is a guy that was one of their own that really always represented the home country, the homeland, with dignity, with honor. For Americans, he did. For wrestling, he was such a great diplomat, first-class guy. I had an opportunity to do something with him once, and just a complete gentleman, the classiest guy in the room. And it wasn't a work. Like, he was the genuine article. And in wrestling, that's very rare because it's so full of guys that are, it images everything. But Bruno, what you saw is what you got.
Man, it was a weird deal because, Bruno was so old school. I'd heard that when I kind of started getting hot, he wasn't a real big fan of what I was doing because, this was the Attitude Era. And,
Sure.
Dude, it's just like me when I see a lot of things today, not necessarily wrestling related, but because I'm rooted in my beliefs or my old school ways, from myself. Some things like the new music scene. There's not a lot of new music that really does anything for me. So I can see why I could have rubbed, kind of a traditional, white meat baby like Bruno the wrong way, and the way that, I approached, my approach into, as far as Stone Cold Steve Austin goes. And I was like, man, and people talked about it. And so I got a chance to meet Bruno. It was many years ago. And I'd met him a few times, but, we kind of I don't think we hashed it out or whatever, but I think he finally understood what I was doing. He just didn't really, he was like you said, he was like a hardworking, blue collar, wholesome guy. And all of a sudden this foul mouth, beer swilling, hell raising SOB comes on the scene. And it's a different vibe than he's used to. And so anyway, but it was cool. But it was cool to shake his hand and it's like, hey man, everything's cool. I respect the hell out of you, and I respect the hell out of you. So, I was at least glad that we were kind of able to bury the hatchet if there ever was one to be buried, so to speak.
Well, the world changed because, look at even before him, Lou Thez. He wouldn't work a lot of guys. He wouldn't work someone that had a manager. And he wanted to present it as a shoot. He thought, you were exposing the business if you had he wouldn't work guys that had certain types of gimmicks and stuff. He was straightforward, straight-laced. So he probably even thought Bruno and I'm sure there's some sort of stories about it, but I'm sure he would look at Bruno and have maybe some strong opinions on what Bruno was in his presentation. But the bottom line is every era, culturally, society, everything changes. You're a reflection of society. That's why it clicked so well in the 90s and into the 2000s. And the thing that, having met both of you guys is you both are men of integrity and you both are no nonsense guys. And they're not, I'm sure when you guys met each other, he probably got that from you, that takeaway. It's like, okay, the thing you did in the ring is one thing, but I see this guy as a person is something else.
Yeah, that was cool, man. Hey, in WWE news,
yes.
Big Royal Rumble, they're going over to Saudi Arabia. Interesting.
Yeah, the biggest question I have today as we record this is, and this is before Monday Night Raw, so maybe they'll answer this multi-million-dollar question because I'm sure WWE's getting paid a lot of zeros to go over there, is what does the winner of the Rumble get? It's a 50-man Royal Rumble. It's star-studded. It's the biggest Royal Rumble in the history. It's the greatest Royal Rumble. What do you get? They should get something. A check from a Saudi prince, a main event title match at SummerSlam, something, somewhere, at some point. It needs something. It needs that cherry on the sundae. What is it? And right now they haven't identified or marketed anything. I don't even know if they will. Maybe a guy just gets his hand raised and it's a lot of pageantry and he just says he won the greatest Royal Rumble and that's it. But I would certainly like to see something that could then be a big bang for a wrestler or a storyline moving forward, at least for the next few months. I don't know if that will happen, though.
What's the deal, speaking of, the 50-man battle royal is going to be an extravaganza. There should be something as far as whoever wins this, like a push or something. Speaking of, like a big deal. Dude, Brock Lesnar, I thought maybe, WrestleMania 34 was going to be his last match. Obviously, he's got another couple of matches left in him. Is he going to go UFC? Is he going to stay in WWE? What's he going to do? I mean, I don't know shit because I'm in Nevada, and when I'm in California, I still don't know shit. What's the story with that guy?
I would say that he's probably going to stay on a little bit longer, and probably I could see him squeezing in one more UFC fight. I think they basically have told him if he comes back, he'll get a world title fight, and based on how that would line up, it would be close to the end of the year. So, yeah, make some more money. Stay around for a few more months. maybe stay around for 5 more months. Depends. The one thing I'm fascinated by is, has Brock Lesnar done a fight camp or simulated a fight camp? A lot of guys that test the worst get back in. They have taken some time off. They do a simulated fight camp. And when you do that, you realize how, as you get older, how tough it is. That's harder than the actual fight. That's a 12-week, 10-week thing, and it is a physical challenge. It's an ordeal mentally. Physically, it drains you. It beats you up. You're fighting injuries. It's a grind. I don't know if he's done that quite yet. And that, to me, really is everything in terms of his future, because that's a big part of this. And, of course, the big check you get, and the UFC needs a star like him with everything going on with GSP having health issues and John Jones just having issues, and their inability to make a lot of big viable stars, Ronda Rousey going to WWE. I think it would be good for Brock to get away from wrestling for a little bit, to build back up the allure, the aura he has. I think he's done a lot of he's been in WWE for a long time now, which is kind of crazy. I think a little time away would probably do him some good.
Yeah, but whether he's done a simulated fight camp or not, I mean, I know Brock's, I don't even know how old is he?
39, I think.
39. I mean,
something like that.
So I mean, if you're looking at fighting years, kind of getting up there. But then on the other side of that, man, there's just not a whole lot of human beings that I've met that are like Brock Lesnar. I put him in that Herschel Walker kind of category, or a Usain Bolt. I mean, those guys are a football player, a track star, but this guy has those kind of once in a generation genetics that just don't come around every day. So I mean, he's just a freak athlete. Big, fast, strong, amateur wrestler. If anybody can do it, it's Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, actually, just to correct myself, he's 40. He's going to be 41 this July. So he'll be, by the time he possibly fights, ticking down to 42. So, yeah, time is of the essence. If he's going to punch his ticket to a UFC fight, get in that octagon, he should do it soon because it's just going to get harder and harder as he gets older and older to do those fights. Randy Couture defied Father Time, and I loved that run that Randy Couture had. Yep. In fact, on the other side of that octagon once upon a time when he was fighting Father Time was Brock Lesnar, who was in his early 30s at that when they did that fight, which was a lot of fun looking back on those fights. The one thing about Brock Lesnar fights, and I enjoy watching him wrestle, and I love watching him in the octagon, is every fight I can't call because it's crazy. The first fight, you can't predict what's going to happen in those fights. Crazy shit happens every time.
There is, and there's there's an electricity that comes over that crowd like no one I've ever seen.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. Some of the other guys at their top, at their peak, those big fight scenarios, it's just excitement personified. And a lot of those people, it's so strange because it's like some of the diehard MMA fans don't really like Brock, but they all respect the shit out of him because he's one of a kind athletes. And when the bell rings, they just want to see, is he going to beat somebody's ass or is he going to get beat? Because, dude, he's so imposing looking, and we know it's a fight game and aesthetics only go so far, but by the same token, he is a very bad stick of wood. So,
yes.
But he's one of the few fighters that I've ever seen bring so much excitement to the octagon, just walk into the octagon, and when that guy says, let's get it on, and when it's time to go, like you said, you never know what you're going to get, and it's always exciting.
I would never bet on a Brock Lesnar fight. I would never win because there's no way of calling what's going to happen in any of those fights. You think about those Frank Mir fights. You think about even the Mark Hunt fight, which I was fascinated by watching that go down because Mark Hunt could take, you look at his resume, that guy was just a bruiser. Low center of gravity, had a background in kickboxing. What was going to happen in there? You just don't know. Every Brock Lesnar fight's a fun fight. You're in for a treat. And so if you're UFC, you look at Brock Lesnar and you want that. You want that opportunity to have him back. And in the long run, I am certain that he sees pro wrestling as the larger part of his future. But once every few years to get in a fight, there's no downside, and he'll certainly make more. You look at the transaction of like a 1-year contract with the WWE versus one fight contract with the UFC. And it's not to knock any company or wrestling, but he will make it's just fact. He will make more doing one UFC fight than he probably will in pro wrestling, because just the money they offer is astronomical.
Hey, dude, I don't remember if I asked you about this or it was a telephone call or you were down there doing your television tapings and I came over to Nevada, and now that's kind of water under the bridge now. But the whole Conor McGregor thing, what's come out of that? Oh,
God. Yeah. I was in the middle of pre-tapes, actually, and someone goes, oh, my God, they're going to arrest Conor. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I start to, fire up Twitter. You go look and see what's going on and all the chaos and shenanigans going on during the weigh-ins and all this stuff for the UFC out here. And it's puzzling because obviously the outrageous, the controversial, the trash talking thing he's done has made him what he is, a huge draw in the business. But at the same time, it's like sometimes you work yourself into a shoot. And I think that's what happened here.
Was it a work or was it a shoot or was it a work gone bad?
I think it was a work gone bad. You start throwing shit and stuff breaks. It's like people got hurt, and it's like just that. What the hell are you doing? And I would think that he would hopefully have more respect for people than to do that. And maybe he didn't anticipate that would shatter and the glass would hit someone, but it did. And it cost them their fights, their opportunity. And like we just talked about, those hell camps that are a training camp, and then you have someone throwing, barricades at a bus window and it shatters and gets into your face. It's uncalled for. It's ridiculous. Part of it is, of course, maybe on UFC for not having their media checklist down pat because they had credentialed his people to come in and cover the show, and they should have connected the dots that might be a backdoor for him to come in. It really was a great wrestling angle. But unfortunately, it was a shoot. It was real, and people got hurt, and that's the negative. That's the fallout of this, along with charges pending and all this stuff. There was a lot of rhetoric about they'll never have him back and all that stuff in the UFC. He's money. They'll bring him back, but he needs to chill out. That's the bottom line. To take your gimmick. He just needs to calm down, and he's going to leave a lot of money on the table if he starts getting too goofy.
Hey, man, before we wrap this thing up, what are your thoughts on the brand split or what's going on right now with Raw and SmackDown and the different superstars?
I think they've done a great job in moving the guys who they moved from each roster. I know I made some controversial remarks on the last show about my feelings about AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura based on my Twitter, but I think they're going to have some great matchups there. When you look at what's on the horizon for SmackDown, I think there's some real great matches. Samoa Joe on SmackDown to me is a phenomenal get. Shakes things up. You can put him against Shinsuke Nakamura. You can put him against AJ Styles. The list goes on. It's really good. And I think they're in a good spot, and Raw got a lot of talent in one shot in the arm, just from drafting from NXT, bringing in Bobby Lashley. I probably wouldn't have done what they did with Bobby Lashley. I would have held back on that because it was almost like an afterthought. You bring back this big bad destroyer, and then someone else is drafted and someone else is drafted. I would have waited maybe till the Greatest Royal Rumble, give him his own spotlight. There was kind of lost, which I think Bobby could have done more if you'd give him that chance. But, in general, too, just looking at the Greatest Royal Rumble, I think that's a badass card. I think that card might give WrestleMania a run for its money. You got that 50-man battle Royal Rumble. You have Brock versus Roman Reigns Part 4 now, I guess. Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor versus Samoa Joe versus The Miz. Really a lot of good talent there. AJ versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Great match for the WWE title. Jeff Hardy versus Jinder Mahal. Bray and Matt Hardy versus Cesaro and Sheamus. And the Bludgeon Brothers versus the Usos. Cedric Alexander is going to be defending his Cruiserweight title. And then you have John Cena in an advertised match, unlike WrestleMania, against Triple H, and Undertaker versus Rusev in a casket match. So that is a hell of a 10-man or 10-match card, and the emphasis is on men because, unfortunately, the women, due to the restrictions out in Saudi Arabia, cannot go and make the tour, which has, of course, been a hot topic. And, when you're in business, you have to make some decisions that you're going to have to maybe sometimes eat a few bullets in the public eye when you make those decisions, and that's, what happened here.
Dude, going back to your thoughts on Samoa Joe, that guy's cutting some of the best promos in the business right now. So I want to give him a shout out for that. That guy, I wish they'd light him up and do something with him. So we'll see what happens down there in Saudi Arabia. But man, that guy, I still think he has a major run in him, and I'm loving his promos. That is a hell of a card. Jesus Christ. I didn't know the card was that deep. Okay. So then, let's don't go through the whole card, but then what are you going to do with Brock and what are you going to do with Roman?
Well, it's a different kind of crowd. So I don't know if they're going to reject Roman like they would if they had done this in St. Louis or if they've done this in New Orleans for WrestleMania. But out there, that might be neutral ground to flip the title. It's going to be a steel cage match for the Universal Championship. It will be interesting how they get out of that match. I still would love to see, as Paul Heyman kind of messed with the media going into New Orleans, Paul Heyman managing Roman Reigns. I think that would be a compelling team if Brock Lesnar's going to walk off and do some time in the octagon. But I don't know. I mean, Brock right now has had this title for a long time. If not Roman Reigns, who do they give it to when? And it doesn't seem like they're grooming anyone for that spot. Back to your point about Samoa Joe, one thing I always felt about Samoa Joe, and I've known Joe since 2002, I think, that dude is such a throwback. Great guy. I could have seen him being a big opponent for like someone like Bruno. Every generation, he's just a big money guy. He carries himself like a big money guy. He works big money style. That guy prints money. And I think on SmackDown, I think hopefully if he can be 100% healthy or as close to as possible, he's going to have some great dance partners and we're going to have some great matches on our hands.
Anything else you want to plug, promote, talk about?
Well, shit, I'll always plug and promote stuff.
Let's plug and promote then before we ride off in the sunset. Dude, I'm gonna load up my dirt bike in the back of my pickup truck.
Yes.
I'm gonna go out to the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management. I just got the suspension dialed in over here. I got a heavier spring put on my motorcycle. I've had this damn motorcycle court for 10 years. Probably has less than 4 hours total on it. And when they make these dirt bikes, it's a 2008 KLX 450. The last year they made that particular model. And so, most of those motocross guys weigh about, 150 pounds. Mm-hmm. So when you get me to sit on that bike, I just completely squash the spring down.
I was going to say, you're not going to be doing any of those high spots off the jumps, huh?
No, dude, I'm not doing none of that. But I'm going to take my big ass and I'm going to get on my motorcycle and I'm just going to putt around the little motocross track out there. But yeah, before I go do that, let's plug a little bit of stuff.
Sure. Major League Wrestling Fusion is on beIN Sports this and every Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Tony Schiavone returns to prime time, first time in over 17 years. beIN Sports is on all major carriers, including DirecTV, Dish Network, Verizon, Fios, AT&T, Comcast, Sling, Roku, Fubo TV, and more. You can also stream it on the go using the beIN Connect app, which you can download on the Google Play Store and on iTunes for free for your wireless device. And an exclusive for our listeners here on the Steve Austin Show, here's the lineup for this Friday's show. The new World Heavyweight Champion Shane "Swerve" Strickland, who is a must-watch wrestler, will be taking on England's Most Dangerous Man, Jimmy Havoc, in the main event. Plus, your old acquaintance, Colonel Parker, will make his return to prime time. He's managing the Dirty Blondes against Jimmy Utah and Jason Cade. They're a great young tag team as well. From Mexico, we have Garza Jr. versus Ultima Ninja. It's a great classic Lucha Libre match. And, of course, Tony Schiavone and Rich Bucchini will call the action. And you can learn more about us by going to MLW.com. That's MLW.com. And you'll learn all about our show, all about our wrestlers, our event next Thursday in Orlando. You can learn about that. Tickets on sale right now start at $15. Go to MLW.com to learn more. That features Pentagon Jr. versus Shane Strickland for the World Heavyweight title. Will Pentagon win the gold? We'll see.
Last question, dude. Colonel Parker was my old manager in WCW. I met him down in USWA when I was just paying my dues, learning business. Mm-hmm. One of the greatest storytellers in the history of the business and one of the most over-the-top. Dude, he's just a great guy. He is Colonel Parker.
He is.
How did you decide to look him up and say, hey, man, come to work for us? Because I absolutely love that guy.
Well, when I found out he was the good colonel Colonel was hanging out in Tampa, Florida. I said, we got to fire up the phone and get this guy out to our shows if he's down to come out. And he was, and he really loves this tag team, the Dirty Blondes, who were a real throwback. One kind of reminds me of a young Dusty Rhodes, Lee O'Brien. You got to check him out. He's a real throwback. And so the relationship developed from there. And just sitting actually in the green room at beIN Sports, we were just sitting there talking in between the commercial spots that we were filming. And he told me a great Andre the Giant story that plays into our earlier conversation. Andre had gone through, because Colonel Parker's family goes back to 1920 in this business. 1920. That's 98 years. And so Colonel Parker was telling me how when Andre came through their territory, he and his brother, Ron, he's Robert, and his brother, Ron Fuller, were in charge of taking him from town to town. And they were going through a dry county, which means they did not serve liquor on Sundays in this particular county. They would 6 days a week, you're good. Sundays, no. Well, they went to gas up, and Andre went inside to get some beer. And he brings the beer, puts it on the counter, and the person behind the counter goes, sorry, it's a dry county today, no beer. He goes, no beer? You can't buy the beer, sorry. Then, Colonel Parker and his brother are buying stuff, and they see Andre pick up these big cases of beer, put them under his arms, and walk out. The guy goes, hey, I said you can't buy beer. He goes, not buying. And just walks in the car, puts it in the car, and he just waits. And then they go, oh, my God, we're going to get arrested. They never got into trouble.
No shit.
A giant walks out with a beer. What are you going to do, stop him? You can't.
That's great.
He technically didn't buy the beer, so he just took it. But, yeah, Colonel Parker's he's going to be starting with us and helping the talent, too, with pre-tapes and giving them feedback on their matches in a formal position, starting with our next show. So it's, I guess, an exclusive here on the Steve Austin Show, because having someone like that who's been in the business so long critique the talent, give them feedback, that kind of feedback you're not going to get making an indie shot here, there, and everywhere. That kind of feedback is precious. That'll help our show. That'll help the talent.
Oh, man, and Robert has a great mind for the business. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, he's been around forever. He's whatever generation he is. Yeah. But, man, my last Andre story is kind of similar to what yours was with him carrying the beer out, not buying. One time, old story, one time he was getting on a flight. If it was Southwest or whatever, he'd take up a whole row, but he was riding first class. And, it's kind of like, when you get in first class, like if you're sitting in this row here, well, then by proxy, the storage bin or the cabinet, whatever you call it, right above you should be yours, correct?
I went through that this morning, yes.
Okay, so anyway, Andre gets on the airplane. Of course, everybody's got all their stuff just jammed up in there, and Andre's got his little gimmick suitcase and another bag or whatever. And so he just puts his stuff down, reaches in, just trashes everything, just puts it on the floor, puts his stuff in there and goes, mine. And nobody said shit.
No, it got real quiet. No one was going to buck up against him.
Anyway, hey, you got all the plugs in. Good catching up with you, Court, and good luck with the show.
Thanks, Steve.
The hit true crime series, Murder Made Me Famous, is now on PodcastOne, showcasing some of the most notorious crimes imaginable, including Scott Peterson, Jodi Arias, Ted Bundy, and more. See how murder made them famous. New episodes starting every Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, as well as PodcastOne.com and the PodcastOne app. And check out the new season of Murder Made Me Famous, starting Saturday, April 14th on the Reels channel.
All right, everybody, give me the go-home cue. It's time to wrap up the podcast, ride off in the sunset. And when I say ride off in the sunset, I'm fixing to jump on my dirt bike, put on my helmet, my goggles, and haul ass. Thanks to Court Bauer for appearing on the show today. Always good to talk to Court about the business of pro wrestling. Many phone calls talking about the business and booking the territory, and we booked his territory. Anyway, ProWrestlingTees.com/Steve Austin has all my Broken Skull Ranch t-shirts available. And the best damn IPA on the planet, they just brewed a new batch, Broken Skull IPA at El Segundo Brewing Company. You can get Broken Skull IPA at Whole Foods and Total Wines if you live in Cali. If you don't live in Cali, check out InsideTheCellar.com and see if they ship to your state. And if you're looking for a badass pocket knife, I got two. The Cold Steel Broken Skull knife or the new Cold Steel Working Man's knife. You can get them at my new Amazon store. And Amazon has the best price on both knives. Just go to Amazon.com/shop/Steve Austin. And I want to say thank you to all the fine sponsors of the Steve Austin Show. That's how I'm able to do this podcast for you twice a week for free. And you can find all my sponsors at PodcastOne.com. Just click on the Killer Deals button at the top of the page and then click on the Steve Austin Show banner. Folks, until then, my name is Steve Austin, and I will catch your ass down the road.
This has been a Podcast One production. Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.